What's happening, everybody? I'm here with the PC build for 2016. Now, I had to replace my motherboard because I had the wrong socket in my last motherboard. Thanks to you guys for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. Now, for the most part, I like to start my PC builds off with taking the side panels off. That's what I do. That's how I always start. That's how you should start when you come to your PC build. Now, for the first part for me, I really like to put the power supply in first because every video I done watched, that's how they do it. So that's how I started off because I'm just following suit. And it kind of works for me. I guess this is a real popular case when it comes to PC builds because I didn't see this case all over YouTube, so I decided to go with it as well. It's the Fractal Design Define R4. Now this case has a lot of foam in it and keeps it silent and quiet when it comes to all the vibrations with the motors and the fans and just all around the PC itself. As I take off the side panel here, I'm about to put in my power supply. Now for me, like I said, I always start with putting the power supply in first. Yeah, once you put it in place, you put the screws in, tighten it up. Don't tighten it too tight because you can kind of break the screws off if you tighten it too tight. So you want to take your time. Just get a nice little snug to it so it's nice and tight. And this is the Corsair 750 power supply. Now, this is a modular power supply. I love these because you can just use what you need because some power supplies has everything built into them. So you got to kind of make room and place these cables wherever you can to make room. With the modular ones, you can just use exactly what you need to power your supplies, your graphics card, your hard drives, your SSDs, all those type of things to make things simple and easy when it comes to cable management. Next up is the motherboard. This is the Asus X98. This motherboard has a 2011 socket, which I need for that 6-core processor, which I want to thank you guys for pointing that out to me. I didn't realize that when I purchased all this stuff, but I want to thank you guys for pointing that out. One of the things I appreciate with these motherboards and all this other stuff is the engineering it takes to make these. I mean, you could just be amazed if you just look at a motherboard and just look what the engineer can do with the time and effort and the parts he can and the materials he needs to make a motherboard that looks so ridiculously beautiful like this. I just like to sit there and admire somebody's great work when it comes to engineering. I'm not an engineer, I'm an electrician, but I can appreciate good work when I see it. But next up, you want to put in the CPU. Now, like every other video I done seen about this, you always line it up with the arrow. So that's perfectly what I did here. The same thing I do with my last PC build, so the same thing I'm going to do here. That you put the CPU right laying on top of the socket, and so you can just lay it where the arrow faces, right where the arrow is supposed to line up at, right there in the bottom left hand corner. So you should have no problems, and just seal it up and then you go set to go. Now it's time for me to put the motherboard in the case. Now the case comes with these little prongs, these little gold prongs you have to put up on the case so it don't short out. So it's a lot of electrical power that goes through a case, so it can easily short out if you lay it on top of the case. So you have to put these prongs in there. It's about like 11 or 9 gold prongs you put on there so you can sit the motherboard right on top of them. Some of these prongs were a little tough to get in at first, but once you line it up and just take your time with it, it'll just ease in with no problem. Sometimes you just have to fight with certain prongs when it comes to these things, but for the most part, they're not that hard to deal with. It's just sometimes they can be a little annoying when you're trying to put it in. So as I put the motherboard down, sit it on top, you got to line it up with the prongs. So this way, when you put the screws in, it'll line up perfectly. You can just tighten it up so it don't get too tight. As I lay the motherboard down, I put the screws in. I don't put the screws in too tight because I like to have a little slack on them because with a motherboard there's layers, so you don't want to tighten it too tight where the layers can crack or damage anything. So you just want to put enough little snug on it where it's tight and still a little loose so you can have some little breathing room so you don't fracture some of the little layers that's on top of the motherboard or in between the motherboard. Another great thing about this case I noticed when I opened it up is that you can put as many hard drives as you want in this bad boy. It's like a good 8 slots to put in hard drive or SSDs, whichever you want to use. I'm going to be using the SSD for all my programs and main software that I use, and just use like a couple of Caviar Greens or Caviar Blues to have for storage. Next up is the graphics card. This is an MSI graphics card. Now this is output 4K, which like I said in my last video, I'm going to be moving slowly over to 4K. So this is the next step I'm taking. And we'll see how this thing performs when it comes to the 4K display and holding up to all that graphics power. Once you find your slot for your PC, once you slide it in, it'll snap right into place. And all you have to do after that is just tighten it up and it's locked into place. But I want to thank you guys for watching this part 1 video of the PC build. Stay tuned for part 2. I had a little scheduling problem with the video, so I had to break it up into 2 parts. But I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit that share button. Thank you guys for everything, and be safe.